I'm now pleased to introduce Martha McGarry, who will present the Excellence in Public Policy Award to Deanna Mulligan. Martha is a partner in the international law firm of Skadden Arps, and she has several decades of experience in U.S. and international mergers and acquisitions, corporate governance matters, and shareholder activism issues. She's advised companies across the globe, including Coca-Cola, Walmart, American Express, Lockheed Martin, and many more. She's been named one of the country's top deal makers, and we are very fortunate at CED to count Martha as a longtime member. Martha, welcome.
Thank you, Steve, for that kind introduction. Tonight it is my pleasure to be introducing my friend Deanna Mulligan, the President and CEO of Guardian, as the recipient of the Committee for Economic Development's 2017 Excellence in Public Policy Award. This is an award that recognizes an individual in the public or private sector who demonstrates a strong commitment to public policy in the nation's best long-term interests. I cannot imagine a leader more deserving than Deanna, or more passionate about some key issues facing this country and its workforce, particularly the essential role that business leaders must play in education and retraining in order to enable people to fully participate in the transformation of our economy. Deanna and I first met at the Fortune Most Powerful Women Summit a few years ago, the Davos for women CEOs. As CEO, she has guided Guardian, one of the nation's largest mutual life insurers, through a period of record prosperity. But for those of you who don't know her, here are a few other things you should know about her. She's a leader fiercely committed to her colleagues and her company, ensuring that its success is driven by upholding three critical values. People count, we do the right thing, we hold ourselves to high standards. In today's world, these values have a special resonance. But Deanna's not afraid to lend her voice as a CEO to address some of the more critical policy issues facing this country, whether it is infrastructure development, corporate tax reform, or workforce development. She is particularly focused on ways to help the current workforce and the future one identify and acquire the right skills to succeed in a world currently being transformed by automation, robotics, and artificial intelligence. Deanna is passionate on this subject, and no one is more aware of how rapidly robots, digital payments, and AI, just to name a few, are already transforming everything from factory floors to retail stores to financial services. The urgency of the need to retrain workforces and to educate the next generation with the right skills is a topic about which she is eloquent. As many of you know, one tenet of the Committee for Economic Development is making capitalism sustainable. We can make our economic system generate long-term prosperity, but if, and only if, more business leaders contribute to finding solutions to some of the structural unemployment and resulting educational challenges facing this country. Deanna is a leader that is involved and making a difference. It is my honor to invite Deanna Mulligan up on stage to accept the 2017 Excellence in Public Policy Award.
Well, thank you, Martha, for that gracious and generous introduction, and I'd like to thank the CED for this award, and everyone here for making this wonderful evening possible. And as I was listening to Martha speak tonight, I thought about all of those important public policy topics about which I and Guardian are very passionate. And, I thought about how we could sit here and talk about AI or robots or technology, and then I realized that I was going to be speaking at approximately 9:15, and that might not be the best topic to keep everyone awake tonight. And I also thought about all the public policy leaders in this room and the great thinkers we have, and that really there's not much more that I could probably tell all of you about this topic. I know in your companies you're all very passionate about some of these issues as well. So I thought maybe I would take a step back and take a slightly different tack. When people talk a lot about the changing workforce environment, people often use the word scary or frightening, or certainly I think a lot of our employees do. And it's easy to kind of take a step back and throw up your hands and say, well, I'm not sure what I can do about that. And it's also, I think, when you're thinking about other public policy issues such as tax policy or infrastructure, to become a little bit frustrated with our current state of affairs in this country and to say, how did we get here? I know it's very easy sometimes to blame the government. Sometimes it's very easy to blame our somewhat materialistic culture and to say things were different when I was a kid, and when I had to walk 3 miles to school. But I think sometimes if you think back to that more simple era that we sometimes long for, let's say the era when we had a new and young president who said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And we're nostalgic for those times, but if you think back to those times, we had a lot of problems that we've made a lot of progress on since the 60s. Things actually have gotten better in this country. Certainly if you went back to that era, I probably wouldn't be standing here tonight as a woman CEO of a Fortune 500 company. As a matter of fact, I'm sure I wouldn't. So we've made a lot of progress, and organizations like CED are very helpful in thinking about macro public policy. But I also think it's important when you take a step back and say, what can I do for my country, to think about micro. So in terms of micro public policy, we've all been dealing, I think, over the last few weeks with people we know in Florida and Texas and the issues that some of our companies are having there. And I thought it was very interesting as we were putting our business continuity plans in place and thinking about what might go on in those states, that one of the employees in my human resource department said to me, Deanna, when all those people evacuate in Texas, talking about our employees, and when they go home, they're not going to have had electricity, and they're going to have to restock their refrigerators, and they might not be able to afford it. And that set me back on my heels a little bit, and I said, that's a very good thought. What would you propose we do about it? And he said, I think we should deposit $1,000 in everybody's checking account in Texas, and you should send them a note, which I did. So we did that before they even returned home. We sort of did it in the middle of the flooding and sent... It wasn't my idea, I have to say. I'm embarrassed that it's not my idea. But we did send a little note that simply said, we're sorry for what happened to you. We're thinking about you. Here's some money to restock your refrigerator or refill your car. And if you need more, you can apply for a grant and we'll give you money for, to help you out. And this was the facility we had in Texas, we had recently acquired. And so the people in this facility were mostly hourly workers. And in our core legacy guardian, we actually have very few hourly workers. We try to pay everyone a living salary, but we just acquired this business. And they were stunned. We sent out, I think, 50 checks, and 10 people, and these are people who are making, you know, $20,000, $30,000 a year. 10 people actually told us to take the money back and give it to somebody who needed it more, which I think is a true American spirit sort of response. And out of those 50 people, only one person asked for more money, and they sent us a picture of their car, which was submerged underwater. You could just barely see the roof. But they asked for $3,000 for a down payment. They didn't ask for a replacement for a car. And so I was so touched by the responses of these people, and every single one of them sent some kind of thank you note. So a couple of lessons from this tonight that kind of apply, I think, to public policy. First of all, when you think that things are bad in this country, they've actually gotten better. And if you think that macro is the answer and macro is hard to accomplish, I'm very heartened when I think about the people in Texas, and we're having some of the same response in Florida right now, who are so brave and so concerned about one another. And it's often the people who have little who think about one another. And so I said this to my staff. I said, you know, this reminds me of something that, you know, to paraphrase Mother Teresa, we're not always called to do great things. We're often called to do small things with great care. So I'd like to thank you all tonight for coming, and thank you very much to CED for this award.